I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we're exploring an amazing book. It is called When Time Stands Still. It is a moving collection of poems written by a wonderful poet. Her name is Rose Pearce. This soul-stirring book journeys through conception, birth, miscarriage, stillbirth, and spiritual rebirth, revealing how love continues beyond loss, blending grief, healing, and hope. These poems offer comfort to anyone navigating profound life transitions. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Rose, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have you on the show. Let's start out with the inspiration behind this very inspired book of poems. Why did you decide to create it, and where did that inspiration come from?
Yeah, the inspiration for the book really came from my own unmet need after we had our first son, Noah, who was stillborn at 32 weeks. And I had gone to, hundreds of bookstores and libraries and just trying to find a book that would help to soothe how broken my heart felt, that I believed I had become separated from the child that had been growing within me, who you love so deeply the moment you find out you're pregnant and you begin having all these dreams for their life. And by reading lots of books and just finding, I'm not finding something that's going to help me transform this grief and sorrow in my heart. I truly believe Noah then began to come to me as a teacher and bring different guides into my life. And he really showed me how he'd never left me. We were always together. And and he just began to show me, by widening my perspective, it was like I could see a whole other world that existed of how he was communicating with me through nature, through my dreams, through um, people who came into my life. And he was sending me so many messages of love. And so I began to write. And then when we had our second daughter, that was stillborn 9 years later, and she was such a high level of energy. And I had carried her 4 times, 4 different miscarriages. And then I carried her until 37 weeks. And each time she came, she was teaching us lessons about birth and death, about saying hello and goodbye. But she really showed me how she continued to be in me as we move through our life. And so when I went and did a nursing trip down to Haiti, I really felt her energy, like she was just sitting right on my shoulder. And she created extraordinary experiences for us at the hospital there. I work as a nurse, and at a school that we supported. And especially one day, I remember, Logan, that we had gone up to a school where a father of 5 children had built a school out of palm leaves and 2 little wooden benches and old chalkboard. And we went into the school and we had brought some school supplies and we were making them rainbow loom bracelets and just brought soccer balls and we're just having fun with the kids. But there was a moment where it felt like the top of my head was lifted off and I just felt this extreme love pouring through me. And I could feel that I loved all those children at the school as much as I loved my own children. And I truly believe that Ambrose and Noah came to us to teach us unconditional love for everyone. And that even though a soul has come to earth and has gone, if you open up to their energy, you can actually access them every single day of your life. And they were really the ones who began writing with me. And so when I would hike or when I would kayak or when I would be doing a Qigong practice, words would float into me, different phrases would come into me. And then I just began writing different poems about the transcendental experiences that I was experiencing with them. And they co-wrote the book with me, really.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. It's wonderful you have that great connection with your
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
And I think the integration of the human spirit and the universe and nature is so profound. And I think it's one of the beautiful aspects of your book, one of the many beautiful aspects. Poetry is, in many ways, the perfect language for expressing both love and profound loss. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, the when I started writing, I wrote the book as one long story. And it was an editor who actually said to me, I said, I don't really like how it's being woven together. And she said, go back through the book and comb out like those diamonds in the book and take each one and write a mini story. And so that's what I did. And then I worked with another editor who said, Rose, now take these miniature stories that are like 20 pages, and she said, condense them to one page and make them a poem. And I thought, Logan, how am I ever going to condense 20 pages into one? And what you find is that when you write a metaphor, even one phrase, you can actually have 10,000 words in that one phrase. And so it really helps you hone in to get to the essence of the story. And so she would take my poem and then she would take one line, cut the rest away, and she would say, okay, Rose, write it again from here, expand on this essence. And so by writing poetry, you are really zeroing in on the feelings you're trying to convey to your audience, of really trying to help them feel what you felt in those transcendental moments. And so poetry is a great way of doing that.
It's a great language, whether it's poems or song lyrics, they kind of do cut to the chase and capture exactly what you're feeling at that moment. Talk to us about the title of the book, Time Stands Still.
Yeah, when time stands still really captured those moments in my life where it felt as though time was either compressing in or time was expanding out. And so the first time I went in, when my son, I could feel he wasn't moving in my belly, and I went into the hospital. And they did find his heart was still beating, and we had 48 more hours with him, but then he stopped moving again. And I went back in to the hospital. So when the doctor found that the heart was no longer beating, in that moment, Logan, time just stood still. Everything else fell away. And you're just sitting with this deep heartbreak and loss. And and there are other moments in your life when I birthed my daughter Ambrance, and in her birth, it was like the room was full of like 100 angels. Both of my triplet sisters were able to come and be at the birth. One was from Edmonton; she was 41 weeks pregnant, and my other sister was from Denver, and she was able to fly up to be at the birth. And during her birth, we were able to connect into I could feel her spirit with me the whole time. And the birth, it was where I didn't have to push. And if the woman's body fully relaxes, then we are able to just allow the natural ejection reflex. But in one moment, Logan, I felt like I could see like hundreds of women from around the world all in the birthing room with us. And in that moment, it was time expanded. And when she was born and placed on me to hold, and I felt my connection to her spirit, I was no longer connected just to her physical body. And so in these moments of just profound spiritual awakening, it is as though time has stood still and everything else has fallen away. And you get to reach into these more expanded places of awareness that you can see. And I always say it's like you're standing at the beach, but it was like my children have been able to take me under the water and the ocean and to see a whole world that I never knew existed before. And so when you expand your awareness out to these higher levels of love, you can see things that other people necessarily maybe don't see, and you can experience it. And just your heart can expand to depths you had no idea. You could feel these higher levels of love during death.
Yeah.
And that death can be really beautiful. And I really saw that in ICU, different patients that I would care for. And I would always say to the family, you're going to be with your loved one as they're dying, but we can have a really beautiful death. And to have everything slow down, let the families, be in touch with their loved ones, sharing stories of the life together, and they're laughing and crying together. And the whole space of the room changes. It becomes a sacred space. It becomes holy. And you get to experience love on just a totally different level. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Particularly with very, very old people, to just let them
Mhm.
go, to let them die in peace, is
Yeah.
really, really important. Like you said, their death is kind of a passage to another dimension, whether you believe in a
Mhm.
different realm,
Mhm.
whether there'll be whatever your belief is, it can be a
Mhm.
very peaceful time in someone's life. You know, you've witnessed it, I've witnessed it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, our medical brains are like, what do we do to save this person? The person's 96 years old. There's no
Yeah.
saving them. Let them go, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said, make it a beautiful experience of hugging, sharing stories, sharing a laugh, teardrops, whatever it might be. I was going to ask you,
Mhm.
how did your work in the medical profession shape these poems and shape you as a person?
Yeah, I really felt that after Noah and Ambrose came to me, they really deepened my level of compassion for patients and their families. And so when I would sit with families in ICU and with patients, I just had a deeper capacity to just sit and be with them so they could allow the emotions that they're holding in their bodies to release. I could sit with them in their pain and not have to change their pain. And by allowing people to sit with their emotions, can move a lot of pain in their body that's not just physical pain, but just emotional pain. And I remember one day when I had a man who was 25, had got in a motorbike accident and became a paraplegic. And he was young, he was engaged to get married, and he was a personal trainer. And he was just having pain that was through the roof, like 150 out of 10. And so I came in with him and I just sat with him and I just said, could we just do this 5 minute exercise of just being with your emotions? And, we just sat at first with him acknowledging his anxiety, that he didn't know what his future was going to be like and his fear. And then we just sat with it. And then we moved on to letting him cry and just crying deeply that he's never going to walk again. And then we moved into anger, where he could just really feel the depth of how angry he was at this person who forever changed his life. And then you cycle back and you start laughing that we're having all these emotions that are just emotions, that are energy that just need to move through us. And I was surprised that I could get him laughing. And we were deeply laughing together. And then his pain came down to like 2 out of 10
Wow.
because he just had such extraordinary emotions that just needed to be witnessed and reflected, and they moved, and then his body just softened and relaxed. And so I really felt that Ambrose and Noah have given me this ability to just sit and bear witness to people either at birth, because I work with moms and families who are bringing souls into the world, where again, there can be a lot of pain or hard sensations, but usually it's a lot of emotions. And so they give me capacity to sit with them, name them, move them, release them. And then the women can return back to their center, back to their breath. But it's the same as you're dying. You really need to release your emotions, release those pains, and then the person comes back to their center and they're ready to go up and out. And so they're very similar, both birth and death, but truly Ambrose and Noah, they give me a steadiness and they've really expanded compassion, which is what I try to teach other nurses and doctors when I work with them, that we all can share compassion in just 30 seconds. It doesn't take long. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. It's hard for a lot of healthcare professionals who are working in the field because you're faced with it so much,
Yes.
pain and family members with questions. You're overwhelmed with work,
Mhm.
but obviously you've been able to compartmentalize it well and be there for the
Mhm.
patients and their family members who need it. And certainly, your children have given you the gift of empathy, which
Yeah.
is a very, very valuable gift. Before we leave you today, let me just ask you, what do you hope readers take away from your book after they turn the last page of When Time Stands Still?
Yeah, I really hope they take away that really this book is a message of hope, that when you are facing one of the biggest challenges in your life, that you're never alone, and that there are either other people or even just nature and animals and these other spiritual beings who are always with us, holding you and supporting you, and that you can actually move through the hardest challenge of your life and it can actually become your greatest power. and that you can expand your perspective and grow and just feel love and really find out that love never ends when the person dies. It just transforms and expands even bigger if we can all just open our hearts more and open our awareness. That's my greatest hope.
Amazing. Amazing
Yeah.
words, an amazing goal, and amazing hope for the readers out there. This is a terrific book. It is really faith affirming, life affirming, and affirming in the essence of humanity, really. The name of the book is When Time Stands Still, a collection of poems about birth, stillbirth, and rebirth. It is written by Rose Pearce. Rose, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Logan. It was a real privilege getting to talk with you.
It was a privilege speaking with you as well. I appreciate the great work you've done on this book and the wonderful work you did today on this interview. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.